I was sitting in a coffee shop 2 blocks from my old office, scrolling through TechCrunch on my phone, when I saw it. The headline made my stomach drop. Revolutionary healthcare app secures $2 million Series A funding. But it wasn't the funding amount that made me feel like I couldn't breathe. It was the name of the company. It was my company, my idea, my pitch deck, my entire business model. Except someone else's name was listed as founder and CEO. And that someone was the woman I'd trusted more than anyone in my professional life. My mentor, Diana. I'm going to tell you exactly how she did it and what I did to make sure she never got away with it. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. Let me back up 6 months. I was 28 years old, working 60-hour weeks as a product manager at a healthcare tech company in San Francisco. But every night after work, I was building something on the side, an app that would connect patients with specialist doctors for second opinions within 24 hours. I'd watched my mom struggle to get a second opinion when she was diagnosed with a rare condition, and I knew there had to be a better way. I spent 2 years developing the algorithm, talking to doctors, understanding the pain points. This wasn't just a business idea. This was personal. I met Diana at a Women in Tech networking event. She was everything I wanted to be. Successful, confident, the kind of woman who walked into a room and people listened. She'd sold 2 startups and was now doing angel investing and mentorship. When she approached me after my lightning pitch and said, "I see something special in you," I felt like I'd won the lottery. Within a week, we were meeting twice a month. She reviewed my business plan, helped me refine my pitch deck, introduced me to potential investors. She never asked for equity. She said she just wanted to help women succeed in tech because no one had helped her when she was starting out. I trusted her with everything. Every detail of my product roadmap, my competitive analysis, the names of every doctor and hospital partner I was talking to, my financial projections, even my personal struggles, how I was maxing out credit cards to keep the prototype development going, how my boyfriend thought I was crazy for risking everything on this dream. Diana became more than a mentor. She became the older sister I never had. She'd text me motivational quotes when I was stressed. She took me to dinners at expensive restaurants and told me I belonged in those rooms with the investors and the founders. 4 months into our mentorship, Diana said she wanted to introduce me to her investor network. She arranged a dinner with 3 VCs she'd worked with before. I practiced my pitch for days. The night of the dinner, I walked in feeling terrified and excited. But halfway through my appetizer, something felt off. The investors kept looking at Diana when I answered their questions, like they were waiting for her approval. When I talked about my technical architecture, one of them said, "Diana mentioned you might need a more experienced CTO to really scale this." I laughed it off, but the comment stuck with me. 2 weeks later, Diana called me with news. The investors loved the idea and wanted to move forward, but they had concerns about my experience as a first-time founder. They wanted to bring in a co-founder with more operational experience, someone who could de-risk the investment. She suggested we meet to talk through options. I should have seen it coming, but that wasn't even the worst part. I showed up to that meeting at Diana's home office on a Thursday morning. She had my pitch deck pulled up on her monitor, except it wasn't quite my pitch deck anymore. My company name was gone. My name was gone. In the founding team slide, there was Diana's headshot, and below it, the title Founder and CEO. I stood there staring at the screen, and I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. She turned around in her chair, and I'll never forget the look on her face. It wasn't guilt. It was pity. Like I was a child who just learned a hard lesson about the real world. "Here's what's going to happen," she said, so calm it made my skin crawl. "The investors are moving forward with the company. I've brought on a development team, and we're launching in 8 weeks. You can come on as a junior product manager if you want. $60,000 a year, standard benefits, or you can walk away, and I'll make sure you never work in healthcare tech in this city again." She slid a non-disclosure agreement across the desk. "Sign this. Take the job or don't. But either way, you don't talk about this. You don't have the resources to fight me. I've already filed the trademark. The investors think this was my idea from the beginning." I couldn't speak. I picked up my bag and walked out of her house like I was moving through water. I sat in my car for 45 minutes, just staring at the steering wheel, feeling like the biggest idiot in the world. How had I not seen this? Every conversation, every introduction, every piece of advice, it was all part of her plan. She'd been gathering intelligence, building relationships with my investors, positioning herself as the real talent. And I'd handed her everything she needed on a silver platter because I was so desperate to believe someone believed in me. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every meeting, every email, every conversation, and somewhere around 3 in the morning, something shifted. The grief turned into something sharper. I wasn't going to let her win. I didn't have her connections or her reputation, but I had something she didn't. I had the truth, and I had receipts. I spent the next 72 hours building my case. I pulled every email I'd ever sent Diana, time-stamped messages where I'd outlined features, shared wireframes, discussed partnerships. I had calendar invites that proved I'd been developing this idea long before I met her. I had LinkedIn messages where I'd pitched investors before Diana introduced me to them. I had voice memos where I'd talked through my business model before our first meeting. And then I did something most people told me I'd regret. I called a lawyer who specialized in intellectual property theft. Stay with me, because what happened next is the part that still keeps me up at night, but in a good way. Turns out Diana had made one critical mistake. In her rush to launch before I could do anything, she'd filed the trademark using elements from my pitch deck. Specific language, the exact tagline I'd created, even a design element I'd commissioned from a freelancer who could verify I'd hired her 8 months earlier. My lawyer sent a cease and desist letter to Diana, the investors, and the development team. We threatened a lawsuit for intellectual property theft, breach of fiduciary duty, and fraud. I'll never forget the phone call I got from one of the investors 3 days later. He sounded panicked. They'd done their due diligence, finally, and realized Diana had lied to them. They pulled their funding immediately. But I didn't stop there. I wrote a Medium post. I didn't name Diana directly, but I told the whole story. How a mentor had stolen a mentee's startup, how power dynamics in tech allow successful people to prey on those trying to break in. I shared the receipts, the emails, the timeline. Within 48 hours, it had been shared by major tech journalists. Diana's name came out in the comments. Investors started asking questions. Her reputation, the thing she'd protected so carefully, started to crack. 2 months later, I got an email from a different VC firm. They'd read my story. They wanted to meet. Within 6 weeks, I'd secured seed funding. Not the $2 million Diana had tried to steal, but $800,000, enough to build the right way. I hired a CTO I trusted. I launched the app 4 months later, and last month we hit 50,000 users. Diana? Last I heard, she's facing a lawsuit from another founder who came forward with a similar story. Turns out I wasn't her first victim, but I was the first one who fought back. Here's what I learned. Trust is a beautiful thing, but documentation is better. If someone asks you to share everything about your business, ask yourself what they're giving in return. Real mentors open doors. They don't walk through them and lock you out. And if someone ever tries to steal your dream, don't let them make you believe you're powerless. You're not. You're just getting started. If this story resonated with you, subscribe. I share a new story every single week. And drop a comment below if you've ever been betrayed by someone you completely trusted. You are not alone, and you will get through this.